As we approach the end of the 2022 NBA regular season, every team will either start shifting their focus towards the offseason or to the playoffs. For the teams at the bottom of the standings more so focused on building for their future, the offseason is their bread and butter as they continue to use the tools at their disposal to rebuild into potential contenders down the line. For today's video, we will be focusing on these teams that are currently in the rebuild phase and will be identifying the biggest bright spot of each of their situations. For some, it may be an individual player, it may be the assets at their disposal for another, and it could even be the possibilities of what they can do with what they have, so it differs case by case. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. PrizePicks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount in that line or under the set amount in the line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making for today's slate of games, I'm thinking of going with Zach LaVine to make over 2.5 threes, Kevin Durant to score over 29.5 points, and Paul George to score over 23.5 points. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of the video to sign up today and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first rebuilding team we'll be discussing today is the Indiana Pacers, and the biggest bright spot of their rebuild right now is Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton was supposed to be one of the major pillars of the next generation of Sacramento Kings basketball, but that changed out of nowhere when they shipped him out at the trade deadline, and the Pacers gladly took him in. The Pacers are still at the point of their rebuild where some of their veteran contributors are still on the roster, even though the direction of the team is clearly focused on the future, but reports have stated that they will look to trade players like Malcolm Brogdon, TJ Warren, and Miles Turner this summer, and the fact that they have Haliburton as a pillar to build around with whatever assets they get in return from those trades is massive. Haliburton is a floor general point guard with truly elite feel for the game and court vision that can drop a double-double with points and assists on a game-to-game basis, already at 22 years old. Since his arrival in Indiana, he's been averaging about 17 points and 10 assists per game while shooting 49% from the field and 41% from three, which just shows how efficient and productive he is as a playmaker that will be able to make the lives easier for anyone the team eventually brings in around him. The next rebuilding team up is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the biggest bright spot of their current rebuild is the absurd amount of draft capital at their disposal. Another obvious answer for the Thunder would be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so I don't want you all thinking that I forgot about him or overlooked him. I just didn't want to pick individual players for every team to focus on other aspects of these teams' outlooks, and the Thunder are definitely a team with a lot going for them behind the scenes. This is going to sound outlandish to some of you when I say it, but the Thunder literally have the potential to have at least 3 first-round picks in each of the next 5 NBA drafts. That's right, from 2022 to 2026, the Thunder are in possession of 3 first-round picks some years and 4 first-rounders in other years. Now, several of these picks in their possession do admittedly have protections on them, meaning that they will more than likely not convert right away, so the reality is that the Thunder probably won't be picking 3 times in the first round each of those years, but the picks will convey eventually, and there is still incredible value in them, so whenever they actually end up being used on those draft picks, or even if they look to package some of them in a trade offer for a bona fide star player to speed things up, the world seems to be their oyster at the moment. The next rebuilding team up is the Houston Rockets, and the biggest bright spot of their rebuild right now is Jalen Green. The Rockets have a lot of young question marks right now, but the fact that they have a bunch of veterans with contracts that make them difficult to trade isn't exactly helping them either, but thankfully over the last few months, Jalen Green has really started to emerge and is playing like the future dominant scorer that he was drafted to be. His first half of the season was admittedly somewhat worrisome, but since the middle of February, he's been nothing short of a bucket. In the 23 games since then, he's been averaging about 22 points per game while shooting 48% from the field and 40% from three, which was the biggest concern with his game early on because his shot selection was a bit questionable and his efficiency wasn't very good either. On top of that, he's currently on a historic run of games where he has scored 30 or more points in 5 straight games, which is the second longest streak a rookie has ever done that for in NBA history, one behind Allen Iverson, who scored 30 points in 6 straight games as a rookie. That progress tells me that he's getting more comfortable at the NBA level and should be in for a massive breakout next season. The next rebuilding team up is the Portland Trail Blazers, and the biggest bright spot for them right now is their flexibility. By this, I mean that the Blazers have a whole lot of money they can spend this summer with a ton of cap space. Many of you were probably expecting Anthony Simons to be the choice here, but he's actually a free agent this summer, and even though every sign points to him re-signing in Portland, it just hasn't happened yet, so we can't lock that in until it's official. The Blazers are also in a weird spot where they insist that they aren't rebuilding, despite every move that they've made recently saying otherwise, so they will likely use that cap space to try to make some major splashes, but if that doesn't work out and they do end up looking to trade a guy like Damian Lillard, then they can use the money to lock up Anthony Simons long term, and having a dynamic young playmaker like that to lead the rebuild is a pretty ideal way to get started. The next rebuilding team up is the Detroit Pistons, and their biggest bright spot right now is Cade Cunningham. Cade was an easy choice here as the player they took #1 overall in last year's draft, and he has been having a sensational rookie season. As was the case when I was discussing Jalen Green earlier, what you want to see from rookies is their production improving as the season progresses and as they get used to the level of competition, and that has also definitely been the case with Cade, as he has been amazing over the last few months. Again, the middle of February seems to be a turning point for him, and since then he's been averaging 22 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds per game, doing well attacking the basket, creating for those around him, and taking advantage of mismatches that he draws as a bigger guard. He's leading all rookies in scoring this year, and has definitely done well backing up the fact that he was the first name off the board in the 2021 draft. And finally, the last rebuilding team we'll be discussing today is the Orlando Magic, and the biggest bright spot is not only having Wendell Carter Jr., but it's the contract that they have him signed to for the foreseeable future. The Magic have promising young guards in Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz is also working his way back after his injury, and rookie Franz Wagner has also been a very pleasant surprise for them this year, but Wendell Carter has probably been the team's best and most consistent player all season long, while still being just 22 years old, and what's crazy is that they have him signed to a contract extension through 2026, where he'll be making on average $12.5 million per year, which in today's market is an absolute steal, and it allows the Magic to spend their money extending more of their young promising core and making signings that could potentially bolster their rebuild in the future. Carter is a balanced scorer who can bang down low and space the floor, he's an underrated passer for a big man, he's a strong rebounder, and an excellent defender, so it's vital to have an important piece of their puzzle like he is, locked up like they do with him. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think the biggest bright spots of these young rebuilding teams are right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.